Good day to you wherever you are in the world. Welcome to section 3 of this lesson in Old Testament survey. I'm Tony Cleaver. I'm your professor, your guide in this section. In this section, we're going to focus on the poetic literature of God's people. You'll learn how in the book of Job, one man searches for answers. When all human wisdom fails, he turns to God. The Psalms are the hymn book for the ages for all of God's people and all people who follow the Lord. Proverbs gives us advice on how to live in a world that at times is not righteous. Ecclesiastes and Song of Songs or canticles show us everyday life with a God of grace and a God of glory who wants his children to honor him in all their ways. What a great section of the Old Testament. Who has not sung in the middle of the night a psalm? Who has not been so happy that they burst into song and recite some of these poetic things? And who has not been so down as they search for an answer when all around them fails and they turn to God? I want your success in this course, and I want your success in ministry for Christ and his church. I wish you Christ's